to record this so that way we have that way I can send it out to people who want to have a recording of this as well. We are ready to begin our Seder. So here's the story. This year, some people have spent time with me at the Seder before. Some people have not. This year, the trauma, I think, of the Seder is that there's so many things to do. Where do we start? What do we do? Where do we come from? Where do we go to? It's just confusing. It's chaos. I'm not going to do the whole full elaborate Seder shibagangi right over here on the table because of 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is because I don't have all the food ready. It's a week before Pesach. It's not an hour before Pesach. Number 2, I think that's the easy part that you remember. I want to give you ideas and tips on how to make your Seder exciting, how to lead your Seder, especially if you're leading it yourself. One thing that I want to tell you is that if you don't have a Seder already planned with someone else, meaning one other individual, I suggest that you do find someone, a friend that you trust, that has been carefully separate from the world in the last couple of weeks, and do the Seder with that person. It is, in my opinion, it is close to impossible to do a meaningful and fun Seder alone entirely. So I would say find one other person. If you're going to live with someone, a roommate or a partner or something like that, that's you're already good. Otherwise, I think you should find someone. It's personal opinion. That's number 1. Number 2, what I would like to add, I think it's important, is the Seder, one of the big, not myths, but one of the misunderstandings of the Seder is the mitzvah, the real fulfillment of the Seder is after it gets dark, which means I have Shayna right over here as she's my in-house. I always need to have an in-house audience to give you a little bit of feedback for the conversation. So she's my in-house audience. Hi. And so one of the important things to remember is that the Seder is meant to be done after dark. So I know that people are thinking of doing virtual Seders and Zooming with their family and their friends back home or in other places. My suggestion is to do that and drink a little bit of wine and get yourself prepared for the Seder. Do that all at the regular, the late hour that we try and kind of do the early Seder, 5, 6, 7. And then when the time actually begins, when the Seder begins, and I'm not going to tell you what time it is in Austin, so I want you to look it up wherever you are. This recording is going to go around not just Austin, but other areas. You can look at the exact time, what time candlelighting time is, and when it comes time for that, you get off the Zoom and you do the Seder more on an internal, personal note. What is the Seder? So let's get into the kishkas of this. What's the meaning of the Seder? The Seder is the first hands-on, non-virtual, practical, in reality, right in front of you experience in which you are reliving the birth of the Jewish people. What does that mean, the birth? Literally, we were a nation of slaves, and now we're not a nation of slaves. Now we're the Jewish people, and we became the Jewish people exiting Egypt and going to the Promised Land. So the whole Seder is talking about 2 big themes. 1, how we got into Egypt, and number 2, how we get out of Egypt. Talk about the crunch before we talk about the fun. Got to talk about, the pressure before we talk about the celebration. That's how all good stories go. That's all Jewish stories kind of do it, right? They made us suffer. We won. Let's eat. Shayna, you want to eat? You can have matzah this year. We'll let you. So that is the Seder kind of in a bubble wrap. There is what's interesting, I think, about the Seder in general is that on the one hand it focuses very much on the storyline, the narrative. On the other hand, it's very, very food based. Eat this, then you eat that, then you eat this, and you pick this up, you put it back down. It's active, it's proactive. You're coming, you're going, you're doing different things, which is exciting because you don't have too much time in which you're reading. There is a section in which you're reading. We'll get there in a moment. Why we do the whole story thing and make it a little exciting. So first of all, what do we have in our Seder package? The reason I'm bringing this out is part of the reason I'm making this video is that way people who do the Seder package will know what to use each part for. So let's start with the Seder package and unpack it. Inside the Seder package, you have the social media Haggadah. I feel like it's QVC. Seder cards. included for no extra charge. Seder placement. And finally, the Seder program. The big thing that I'm holding here is the Seder plate. And I'm going to talk to you about each thing is meant for. That's besides for, of course, the Kiddush cup, which is right over here on the right side. Okay, so what do I have each thing for? This is decor. This is to make you feel like you're sitting in the fancy Seder that's around. You put it in front of you. You can lean it over. You can place it on your plate. You can hang it on the wall. You can put it on your fridge. It is a beautiful, it has the list of all the steps of the Seder, little reminders, a little symbol on each one of what exactly it is. You have the cups of wine, you have the washing of the hands, little symbols. It's beautiful, it is cute. It is primarily as decor, and if you lose your place, you can actually look at this for a quick visual reference. But this is not the practical place you're going to be leading your Seder from. Where are you leading your Seder from? You're leading your Seder from either this is the short version of it, or with the Seder cards. And the Seder cards are meant to be the easy way to have both a direct, actionable Seder that also includes meditations. For example, I want to give you a little tidbit here. The first thing that we do in the Seder is we make Kiddush. We raise a glass of wine, and we thank God for giving us the new year. On this card, it tells you how much wine to put in your thing. It tells you to look at your Haggadah, which I'm going to get to in a moment. And then it says at the very bottom, it says, how is wine, how is wine connected to freedom? And that is a Jewish question in general. How is wine connected to freedom? Because we have wine every holiday, both on Kiddush and Havdalah. If this is Kiddush and Havdalah, why does wine have extra energy? Why do we give it extra attention by the Seder? Question to be thought about. I'm not going to give you the answer right now. So this is how it works. Let's start from the very, very beginning. If you look at our Seder guide, bit.ly/Seder guide, you have the exact information, the shopping list, and everything for the Seder. That is great. You're going to shop for your Seder. You're going to get everything ready. You're going to, in the morning of the Seder, you're going to cook dinner, Passover dinner. You are going to boil up your egg. You are going to make sure you have either a shank bone or a chicken neck. You're going to grind up your charoset, which is basically almonds, walnuts, pears, apples. Some people put cinnamon. We don't. Put it into a blender, grind it up. That's your charoset. Make sure you have purchased your maror, which is bitter herbs, chrein, and romaine lettuce. And make sure you have a vegetable for dipping in salt water. You're going to make your salt water as well. Pro tip, boil your water before you mix in the salt. It makes it so much easier. Double pro tip, get pink Himalayan salt. Because pink Himalayan salt makes your salt water pink. And that is so cute. It adds a little color, a little pizzazz. I love it. Okay. So, you have, that's what you're doing the morning of the Seder. If you want to make yourself a brisket dinner, you make yourself a brisket dinner. You want a chicken dinner, you make yourself a chicken dinner. You want to make latkes for Friday, for Seder night. Latkes are delicious. Shana agrees. Latkes are absolutely delicious. They're eggs and potatoes, both completely kosher for Passover, which is wonderful. If you want to make your whole kitchen kosher for Passover, there's a million links online. You can search for it, or you can call me or message me. I can give you the exact directions how to make your kitchen kosher for Passover. It's not really not that hard. Really not that hard. Excuse me a moment here. Thinking of Passover and matzah, my mouth already got dry. Okay, so comes evening. What do? You light your holiday candles on your table. You bring out your, where did I put it? My bottle of grape juice or wine. Make sure that's on your table. You get your Kiddush cup and you put it in front of you on the side. This is the Kiddush cup. It's included in the Seder package as well. You can have a plastic cup that works just kosherly fine, and you can put it next to you. All right, so grape juice blocking it. I'm going to put it like this so that way you can see it. And you have your included Seder plate. This is a Seder plate. It doesn't look like a plate, but it works like a plate. The round section is what we're going to call the Seder plate. There's a little bit of instruction on the bottom over here. It looks very beautiful and fancy, which it is. And besides for this, you also have your matzah box, which looks just like this. You can, up to you, you can take the matzahs out of the matzah box and place them under your Seder plate if you would like, or you can use the matzah box as part of your Seder experience by placing the matzah box in its entirety underneath the Seder plate. That would work too. So you have your matzah. We have 3 matzahs. Why 3 matzahs? Actually, a very interesting question. Why 3 matzahs? There's a big argument why we have 3 matzahs. The reason we have 3 matzahs, our meaning common consensus opinion, is every Friday night we have 2 chalot, 2 loaves of bread. On a Friday night of Passover, you have matzah 1, matzah 2, but you need a matzah that's going to be broken. As we'll get to in a moment, you need a matzah that's cracked in half to tell the story. So the 3rd matzah that allows you to crack a matzah in half and place it in between the 2 matzahs. So, you take your matzah. I'm going to leave it inside the box because I think it's easier to use. What you could do is you can unhook the front of the box, fold it inwards, just like so. Here, let me show you. You unhook the front and fold it in, you actually have a matzah container / Seder plate in front of you, which can work as well. Or you can just place it directly on the table and then place your Seder plate on top of it, which I think both works very, very well. Okay. So you have your matzah box. You take your Seder plate, place it on top. On your Seder plate, it tells you exactly where to place each item. You place them in. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I'm going to try not to be redundant. Whatever it says in your Haggadah, whatever it says in the Seder guide, follow it. The Zroa goes in the right top corner where it says Zroa. Boom, put it there. That's your shenkbon. Okay, you put everything down. What do you do next? So this is what you follow if you want to follow the quick version. And this is what you follow if you want to follow with thought. It's the exact same thing. This is Kaddish, this is Kaddish. This has a thought, this just has what to do. The first one says Kaddish, read the Kiddush in the Haggadah, and drink the first cup while leaning to your left. So 2 points. Number 1, it's very important to lean to your left because it's all about freedom. And freedom is letting go. And letting go means letting your hair down. It means not wearing pants. It means a lot of things in which we're very accustomed to in today's virtual society. However, in Judaism, we call freedom is by specific things that we would do as aristocrats. And aristocrats get to lean back while they eat because they don't have to worry about who's picking up the check. And they don't have to worry about who's cleaning the table or cleaning the floor. So they would lean back and lean like this. And we also lean to our left. And really, you take your chair. As I said, we're going to do mostly tips. Lean to your left. This chair actually physically leans. You lean to your left. And you drink your Kiddush just like so. There are people who will take a second chair and place a pillow on it. If you're feeling extra excited, please do that. Okay, so you're going to fill up the Kiddush. You stand for Kiddush. It's very important. Stand for Kiddush, respect for the holiday, respect for the wine, respect for Passover. You make your Kiddush. You sit back down. And again, you're following your instructions that are on this piece of paper. Where are you reading your Kiddush from? So if you follow the placemat or the chart, the Seder chart, it says Borei Pri Hagafen on the Seder chart. If you want to have the longer Kiddush, you can either print out your own Seder, your own Haggadah from the links that are included in the Seder guide. And I'm going to repeat this. The Seder guide is bit.ly/Seder guide. It has everything you need to know about the Seder and how to do it and shopping lists, etc. It also has links for the extra long Haggadah. Included in your Seder is going to be this Haggadah booklet. This is a very short version. It has 15 pages in it. The reason why it's so short, I'll tell you in a minute, the little secret that's involved. But first, this has a Kiddush. Right there on the first page. This, together with this, is the whole Megillah. Haggadah, also. Megillah. It's everything here. Kiddush you read, and you've sanctified the day. You've made the Seder a holy time. As you know, the Seder is the best Seder of the year. It's the only Seder of the year, besides the Seder that's going to happen night number 2. But it's the best time of the year. It's a time for freedom, a time for letting yourself to experience what it truly means to forget about everything that's out there and just take pride in our heritage, take pride in our tradition, and let yourself relax. Okay. You've made Kiddush. The next steps are very straightforward. We're going to go through them, just mention each one in order so you'll know that you're doing the correct order. The second step is to do urchatz, which is to wash your hands. You wash like you're washing for bread. We're not eating bread. Part of the reason we do this is to get ourselves thinking, what's weird about tonight? Oh, it's Passover. It's different. So you wash your hands. Karpas, you dip the vegetable in water to remind ourselves of the tears that we cried in Egypt, and also tears that we cried when we realized you have to stay inside for the next month and a half. Then you have yachatz. This is where the Passover experience gets interesting. Because what is yachatz? Yachatz means that you take the middle matzah out from between the two matzahs, and what you do is you crack it in half. That's a little trick, by the way. Put your thumbs in the middle and crack it. And then you have 2 pieces to your matzah. The large one becomes the afikoman that you take. I suggest putting it in a pillowcase, a clean pillowcase, or you can just wrap it in a napkin and put it on the side. The smaller piece goes back inside the Seder plate. And this actually becomes your storytelling matzah. I think that one of the beautiful things about the Seder is that we look at the story of Passover is told over a small piece of bread, a small piece of matzah, a half a matzah. It reminds us to stay humble, humility. This is the whole story of Passover. It's told over this piece of matzah, which you later eat as part of motzi matzah. Reminds us that we're just a half, God is the other half. A lot of meaning there. So now that you have your matzah broken and you're prepared to go forward with the real mitzvah of Passover. What's the real mitzvah of Passover? Storytelling. And it's weird this year. Why is it weird? Because you like to have a little kid that's sitting there and then you talk to and you're like, so, Sarah, here's the story of Passover. Let me tell you the story of Passover. You have a scapegoat. This year we're going to be doing the Seder either alone, or alone with a friend, or alone with one other or 2 other people. And it's really, when it's a bunch of adults, it's interesting. So my suggestion to you is just read out loud. Read the story out loud and get into it. Allow the story to flow through you. Even if other years you kind of did the Haggadah like chick-chack and whatever, and then this year let it go. This year get into the story, read through it, and that is what this social media Haggadah actually allows you to do. Not only to understand what the Haggadah is about, but to be able to see it in a visually familiar context. And I'll explain in a moment what I mean. The first thing we do when we start the story of Passover is obviously the 4 questions. Again, this year, you might be the oldest person in the room, you might be the youngest person in the room, you might be both. Take the time to ask the 4 questions out loud. If there's no one there, if there's no children to ask the 4 questions, we ask the 4 questions. And the Hasidic tradition is that who are we asking the 4 questions to? To God. We're asking God, where are you? Why is this exile? Why is this night so long? Why is it so terrible? And currently, as we're suffering through this pandemic, we're lucky to have our health. We recognize that a lot of people are going through a very, very hard time, both economically and health-wise. And I wanted to mention this earlier, but this is a time to wish the refuah shlema, speedy recovery to all those who need a speedy recovery, all those who need health included. We have relatives, both sides, friends and family friends who are currently suffering. So I want to wish them all speedy recovery. And I want to dedicate this class to their honor. They should merit. They should have a quick recovery. So we sit on Passover night. And the first thing we do is ask the 4 questions. Now, if you have your own Haggadah, you don't need this. If you have your own Haggadah, you don't really need this. But this makes it fun. And this is if you don't have a Haggadah, you have these two together, you have the whole thing. That's what it's about. So what happens? You read the 4 questions. Why is this night different from all the nights? All the nights we dip everyone. Even we do not even dip once, unless you're dipping tacos and salsa. I don't know if it counts. Tonight we dip twice as part of the Seder. All of the nights we eat chametz or matzah. Yes, there are people who eat matzah throughout the year. They like it. Tonight we only eat matzah, no bagels. All of the nights we eat any kinds of vegetables. Tonight we only eat maror, which fits in a deli sandwich generally, but other than that, I don't know who eats maror raw. And lastly, all the nights we eat upright or reclining. In fact, very little reclining. Tonight we eat it leaning to our left. So why? Why do we do all this stuff? And so we answer. We open up our matzah. We look at our little piece of matzah, which I have hiding over here. And we say, this is the bread of affliction. That our forefathers ate in the land of Egypt. I actually swapped the order. First we read this is the bread of affliction, then we read the Madashtam. We fill up the second glass of grape juice or wine. This is the second glass. And the combination of having the glass of grape juice in front of us and the matzah in front of us together, that gives us the matzah experience. We have wine, we have matzah, and together we have the storytelling of the Seder. So we read after the 4 questions. This is the bread of affliction our forefathers took, that the Lord our God took us out of Egypt. Sorry, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. The Lord our God took us out from there with an outstretched arm. We start telling the story. But what's the story? And this is where the storytelling medium comes in. The social media Haggadah. You open it up to the first page, and what do you see? There's some texts, some Facebook messages, followed by a Passover event, followed by some tweets. And it kind of, it's cute. It's very, very, very funky. I like it a lot. If you read this entire thing, both sides, and again, it draws you in because the story is an interesting story. This is why what we're celebrating. This is how we're celebrating. It's a storytelling night. There's a very interesting phrase, which people, I think, it goes like this. I find it very interesting. I think a lot of people find it very, very interesting. Information today, we pass information along, mostly scientific information, and we mostly pass that information along through the language of mathematics. But over the centuries, we would pass information. It was more than just scientific information. It was the stories of life was encoded in stories. So everything that we have, everything that we know is stories. And we would tell the stories, and that's how we would transfer values and information and ethics and law. And in fact, look at the Torah. The first book of the Torah, all stories. By the way, suggestion, drink water during your Seder. It's very good to stay hydrated. So the stories of the Seder is really how we pass information along, not just to our children and to people that we know, but to ourselves. We think of things in the framework of stories. That's how we approach life in general. I don't think I don't know if we think about this a lot, but really, most art is in the framework of a story. A lot of music is storyline based. A lot of even the stories of emotions. It's all the emotional music that we have. It's all a story. Something that happens, something else happens. This is the story of how we got through it. Movies, literature, films, anything out there is in the framework of stories. And Passover is the epitome of that. It's stories. Which story? The story of being Jewish people in exile in Egypt, and spiritually is our story. What are we living through? What is our personal exile? Where are we blocked? What is coming up against us? What is our limitation? Both physically, where do we want to grow? Where do we want to advance? And also spiritually. And one of the things that I would say that's amazing about this time right now, where everyone's stuck at home, and days are nights, and nights are days, and it's Groundhog Day throughout. You just, oh, it's Thursday again. Next thing you know, it's going to be Thursday again. And how do these things happen over and over? Everything's a blur. In a certain sense, it gives us freedom. Because now we get to go into ourselves and say, what is it that I want to do with my life? In a few months from now, we're going to be out of this. What is it that I want to accomplish then? Where can I lay down the groundwork for that today? And really, it's not just lay down the groundwork for like this, for a career, for a hobby, or for whatever it is, but spiritually. What is it that I as a person, what are my spiritual goals? I want to become a better person. I want to get closer to God. I want to begin praying more often. Now is a great time to start praying. Start praying every morning. Start praying after every evening. Before you go to sleep, say the Shema, say Moda'ani in the morning when you wake up. It is a great time to really go internally, go inside and find places for growth because we have the time. We're not rushing anywhere. And yes, the stress is intense, mainly the stress of the uncertainty. But on the other hand, if you're able to turn off, and especially when it comes to holidays, turn off all digital stuff, and you become your oasis in time, an oasis in space, it becomes a lot easier. You don't have to worry about all the distractions. You can go into all these beautiful books. And Shabbos candles. You can light Shabbos candles on Friday. By the way, the Seder kit comes with 2 sets of Shabbos candles, so you can light for actually maybe 3 sets, because we have Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. Might include a third one because it's a mitzvah. Okay. So I'm not going to read through the entire Seder, because if that was the case, it would be a Seder. You can go through this as fast as you would like. If you're a quick reader and you're somebody who is able to, read the story in a kind of calm way, but understand it in a very fast pace, you can read through it and you're done. If you want to take your time and really read it and think about how it applies, obviously that's what I suggest. And it is a beautiful story. One interesting point is Moses is not mentioned in the story at all. Moses took us out of Egypt, but Moses is not mentioned in the story. Why is Moses not mentioned in the story? Got you to think about. We'll leave this for you to think about, because if I tell you all the answers, what's the point of the Seder? So you read through all of this. This is beautiful. After you finish the history, there's a few blessings to be said. Blessings to be said, of course, before we drink the wine. And that can be found on page 3 of this rest of the Haggadah. What I will add, what I will note, is that this rest of the Haggadah page, this is where we do the wine droppings. Meaning, some people have the custom to pour wine. They'll have used their pinky and dip wine. That starts on page 3. And we speak about the many plagues the Egyptians received. God punished them for the 220 years of suffering. And then on page 7, we make the blessing. We drink the second glass of wine, leading to our left. Right now, if your wine is strong enough, you're a little drunk. If not, you drink grape juice, or you drink very, very light wine. There's no mitzvah by the Seder to get trashed. I know there are some people who think that the Seder is a time, it's like Purim and Simchat Torah, where you're supposed to drink as much wine as possible and get completely passed out by the end of the Seder. I do not believe that. First of all, there are people who don't drink. Then they have grape juice instead of wine, which is 100% kosher. Additionally, there are people who don't want to pass out by the Seder. You want to have a spiritual experience. You don't have alcohol, have a spiritual experience. So you have wine, and you drink it. This is it. Blessing number 2. At this point, the stories and the speaking is over. And now we've moved into action session. So you wash your hands again. And like I said, this is all what to do next. You don't need to use this video to keep track of what happens next because you have it over here. We're up to step 5 is the longest step. The step of the stories. Step 6, you wash your hands. Step 7, you eat your matzah. Step 8 is part of step 7 because one's a blessing for hamotzi and one's a blessing on the matzah. 9, you eat maror. Don't lean to your left. 10, make a sandwich. 11, eat dinner. Finally eat dinner. You know, the joke goes that there's two poor individuals who were traveling and they didn't really have much, financial wherewithal. One was Jewish and one was not. So the Jewish, we're going to go Jewish and Gentile because it sounds more fun that way. The Jewish and the Gentile were traveling together. And they reach the town, and the Jew thinks about it. He's like, oh, tonight's Passover. Oh, it's a great night. Tonight is the best night for us to go out to eat. What do we do? Just come, tell the Gentile, come with me. Put a yarmulke on your head. Everything will be okay. Come join us. Come to the shul. We'll stand in the back. Everyone that sees visitors in town for Passover walks over to the visitors before they leave synagogue and say, do you have a place for the Seder? If you don't have a place for the Seder, you say, I'm looking for one. And they say, come with me. And then they're going to invite us. And we're going to have a phenomenal feast. It's going to be the best feast you've ever had. So the Gentile says, really? He says, unbelievable. You are going to have an amazing, it's going to make up for all the time we haven't eaten in the last week. The Gentile's super excited. Okay, they go to synagogue. He gives him a yarmulke. He puts it on his head. He gives him a siddur. He says, just shake back and forth and make like you're praying. Everything's fine. Okay, it comes towards the end of the prayers. As people are walking out, they say, do you have a place for the Seder? So he says, oh, I'm looking for one. So this guy gets invited to one Seder. The Gentile gets invited to a different Seder, and they go their separate ways. The next morning, they meet. And the Jew goes, no, how was your Seder last night? The Gentile wants to sock him in the face. He says, what's going on? Why are you so upset? He says, you Jews you're crazy. I don't know how you do it. He says, what happened? He says, I don't understand. We come to the house. I smell the food. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I'm so hungry. We sit down. We drink a cup of wine. I'm like, they know what they're doing. Next thing you know, they give me a vegetable. Like weird customs these Jews have, but a vegetable, I can get behind that. All right. Next thing you know, we're talking. We're talking. 45 minutes later, we're talking. I don't know what to do. I'm going crazy. I'm hungry. I had a cup of wine. I have another cup of wine in front of me. Every time I go leaning forward, they stop me from drinking it. I'm going crazy. Something. They're like, fine. Go wash your hands. I said, I wash my hands. Go wash your hands again. Okay, wash my hands again. Come back to the table. What happens now? They give me a cracker. A cracker. I'm starving. I ate the whole cracker. He says, give me another cracker. They gave me another cracker. I'm going crazy. I smell the food. They know they have food. What are they torturing us for? Cracker. Then it was too much. What happened is they gave me this vegetable. And I'm so hungry. I took a bite, a big piece. I tossed it in my mouth. And I was crying and I was weeping. I couldn't. And I'm like, give me something else. They gave me more matzah. And then they gave me some more. And I ate it again. Crackers and vegetables and crackers and vegetables. I said, enough, to hell with you Jews. I threw it on the table and I ran out. I couldn't. And the Jew says, oh, if you would have stayed 2 more minutes, we'd have gotten the brisket. And that is the truth. Don't rush through the Seder. Don't burn through the whole Seder just to get to the part about Shulchan Orech and get into the food. Because then you're missing the whole fun. Secret tip from me. While you're Zooming with your family and friends before the Seder, because before the holiday, have a little mash, maybe a little macaroons, maybe a little of the fish, maybe a little bit of the salad, pre-game. That way when you get to the store, you'll be fine. It'll be delicious. It'll be okay. Shana, you agree? She agrees. It's good. Once you eat the meal, you're full. At least you should be. If you haven't, if you're not full, this is a problem. It's a problem for 2 reasons. Number one is because it means if you're not eating well on the Seder night, what if you've been cooking for yourself the last 2 weeks? Give me a call. I'll give you some recipes. Don't cry. Number two, it's good too, but you should end the meal of the Seder full on a full stomach. At that point, you reach Afikoma. Elijah this year is coming without a hazmat suit and without. What? No, he did this. There we go.
So watch it again.
Yeah. Without a hazmat suit, Elijah this year is going to come visit us, and that happens immediately after we bench. By between cup number 4 and the end, or as we pour cup number 4 and prepare for the cup number for the end of the Seder. But first, Safon is Ita Afikoman. A lot of people miss this part of the Seder. This is what I call the secret part of the Seder. Why do I call it the secret part of the Seder? Because everyone knows the part where there's the talking and the talking and the talking. Everyone knows the part where there's the eating of the matzah and the maror. That everyone knows. The charoset, the whole shebang. That part is easy. What people are missing, I think, in my opinion, because everything's in my opinion, the second half of the Seder. Birkat HaMazon, which is Beirach, which is in the rest of the Haggadah. It can be found on page 8. And it's the regular Birkat HaMazon, so whatever you used to say, however you used to pray, it runs here in this booklet from page 8 through page 11. And then comes 2. After you finish the Birkat HaMazon, you drink cup number 3 to finish it off. You drink it down. By now you're pretty happy. You're full. You've had 3 glasses of wine at least. The Seder is ending on a very calm note. And now it moves into the final phase. What's the final phase? Halil Nirtzah. So first of all, don't forget to open the door for Elijah. To open the door for Elijah, what do? You open the door. You walk to the door. You take a candle with you. You take your Haggadah. You read this piece. You invite. It's called "Pour Out Your Wrath." It's actually very, very powerful. You should read it. Think about it. If you have questions, call me. And then you open the door. You invite Elijah in. Our tradition by our Seder is to sing a few songs that have to do with redemption, songs that have to do with going free from exile. And then with the closing of the door, we move into freedom zone, which means phase 2 of freedom. Up until now, we were talking about exile in Egypt, freedom from Egypt, and now we're talking about freedom, that we're looking for personal freedom, freedom both as a person and freedom as going out of this exile. And this is called the Halil Nirtzah, which is basically a collection of psalms and songs and praise. And it is absolutely beautiful. It is a long bunch of songs. The reason why I call it long is because if you've prayed Saturday morning service recently, you'll recognize a lot of these songs. If you've prayed Hallel on Rosh Chodesh recently, you'll recognize a lot of these songs. Otherwise, they're going to be a little bit random. But they're beautiful. For his kindness is everlasting. 26 songs. 26 phrases. Giving thanks to the God of gods, for his kindness is everlasting. Give thanks to the Lord of lords, for his kindness is everlasting. Who alone does great wonders, for his kindness is everlasting. I can start doing this now. Beautiful. Just speak its poetry. You read this poetry. You think about the goodness that God, the gratitude that we have for what God has given us, the gratitude that we have for what Yiddishkeit gives us. When we read this through page 15, we finally make a blessing on the wine, a final blessing on the wine, drink it. And we finish with a final note, and that is next year in Jerusalem, Shana Haba Yerushalayim. And that is the Seder. So what happens in the Seder? What are we doing during the Seder? We are experiencing, and again, this is the shorter, non-in-depth version of how to do a Seder. It is just going through step by step, really quickly, what it is. The Seder is a time where you really have the ability to make it your own. And I think that's what's important to remember in this process. Is there's so many resources that you can be overwhelmed. I personally get overwhelmed once in a while with just how much there is and what there is to think about and to meditate on and to study about when it comes to the Seder. But really, if you just take on the very surface level, you look at what the Seder is about, it's about we focus on suffering to understand the contrast to freedom. We focus on what happened in Egypt to understand where we're going post-Egypt, the freedom that we had going out of Egypt. And we eat the matzah. The matzah is both the bread of affliction and is the bread of freedom. It is the bread that we ate to remind us of what we ate in Egypt and also to remind us of freedom and Exodus, because the Jews ate matzah, didn't have time to rise, they threw it on their back. So there's a lot of different things that could go together, and I think the whole Seder is back and forth. Freedom, slavery, slavery, freedom. Salt waters of tears. Charoset reminds us both sweet, and yet it reminds us of the mortar, the brick and mortar of the Seder. So each little detail is so powerful and beautiful. I'm going to be sharing on Instagram and Facebook just short little nuggets every day, and maybe even multiple times a day as the chaos of life allows me to, from now through the Seder, just little pieces. And I hope to be able to do one more video that I may, hopefully will also record, a video in which we're going to go through just very quickly little pieces of the Haggadah to say this is an interesting thought to think about, this is an interesting thought to think about. But remember, the Seder is yours. It's nobody else's. My Seder is not your Seder. What I'm going to be thinking about is personal for me. Not that it's private, although it might be, but it's not about the privacy of my Seder. It's the idea that this is my Seder. I'm going to put a little bit of effort in making it exciting, and I want you to do the same thing for your Seder. Take the time. You have a little bit of time on Shabbos. You have a little bit of time throughout the week. Take your time, even during the Seder itself. You don't have to prepare before the Seder to know what the meaning is going to be. Get to the Seder with the plan to unpack the Seder. Sit down for your Seder at 7 o'clock, at 8 o'clock. Sit down for the Seder. I believe 8:12 is the time you can make Kiddush. Sit down and just let the Seder take you on a journey. If you finish at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's also kosher. Call into let your work know, if you're working from home, that unfortunately this year, Passover is very important to me. And I'll be busy crunching matzah all Thursday and all Friday. I won't be available for any phone calls or any conference calls. I'm going to have a virtual Zoom matzah background with pyramids and crunches of matzah. Have a good night to you all. I'm going to post this video, I believe, to YouTube. And I'll put a link out there as well. So you can go back and read it again. If you have any questions about the Seder, feel free to text, call, carrier pigeon, telegrams, personal messages through Amazon delivery drivers, Uber drivers, however you get the message over to us. Just don't do Morse code. We're very bad at reading Morse code here. Have a good night, and I wish you all a pleasant Shabbos. It's the best Shabbos of the year upcoming this weekend, and I want you to have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful Shabbos, and I will catch you all later. Have a good night.